Okay, so what we're hearing is that there are 5 Arab nations involved in these efforts. And do remember, in the past couple of weeks, it's been very difficult to pin down exactly who will raise their heads, raise their assets, and join this coalition of the willing. So let's just go through what we know at this hour. We've got Saudi Arabia. That's the largest and most influential of countries around here. They've helped the US in efforts in the Gulf before, and it looks as if they're doing that again. They've also said they'll be training Syrian moderates on the ground, of course, going forward. The UAE, where I am here, Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE, this country is already hosting Australian jets. We know that from about last week. Jordan. And that's an interesting country. That will and can provide an awful lot of intelligence. It's also one of the countries that is right in the firing line for spillover from refugees from Iraq and from Syria, and potential hits from ISIS. So an incredibly important country to be involved in this coalition of the willing. And then you've got Bahrain. So those are who you would expect to be involved. Those are US allies in the past, and those you would expect to be involved in any moves going forward. Then there's Qatar. Let's remember Qatar in this region, part of the GCC, but there's been a real rift between the likes of the UAE and Saudi of late, and Qatar. Qatar have been hosting the Muslim Brotherhood, political Islam. That's something here in this region others are very, very frightened of. So they've sort of been left out in the cold to a certain extent to do things themselves, where what we are hearing, we're not sure whether they're actually flying jets out of there. They have done in the past. They were part of the coalition of the willing in Libya in 2011. So it may be that they're flying their own jets or providing facilities for others, but it seems they are involved. Now let's just go over who we believe isn't involved at present. Number 1, Turkey, a NATO member. Now, it was, to a certain extent, using the excuse that ISIS was holding some 49 hostages until about 24 hours ago. Very concerned, Mr. Erdogan had said, of getting involved with any fight against ISIS while those hostages were being held. Well, they've been released, and we've begun to hear talk from the Turkish government about setting up a Syrian buffer zone, but at present, no word on whether those bases in Turkey could be used by anybody, including the US, for outbound flights. And then you've got 2 other countries in the region which we ought to allude to here. Syria, Bashar al-Assad, clearly not involved, overtly at least, in this campaign. Experts will tell you there have been back channels open to Bashar al-Assad in Syria, but as things stand at the moment, no overt involvement. And then there is Iran, the very big other influential player in this region. They have been active on the ground in Iraq in providing military equipment to the Peshmerga and the Iraqi forces who have been fighting against ISIS over the past months in the north of Iraq. But as we know, and this may change as the UNGA kicks off in New York, but as things stand at the moment, the Americans say they won't be part of a coalition of the willing. And even though Tehran has said they have been asked by Washington,
Becky,
not something that Washington has verified, but they say that they've been asked by Washington, they say they won't